Hey, Jason, good morning. It's another beautiful Friday here in our neck of the woods. How are you today?
Well, it definitely is another beautiful Friday, Kathy. I am doing fabulous. Telling you, just again, being able to come out of a busy work week and enjoy this time of transportation talk with you is fabulous. I did manage to get an extra light put up here in my studio, and I hope it's coming through okay, but it's different. So I have a light box now, so it's beautiful, wonderfully casted light that's nice and even, but it's weird because it feels like I've got a giant wall in front of me that's lit up white. So,
Well, I'm
so
jealous
I'm
how
interested.
well lit you look and it's beautiful. I'm going to have to work on that, trying to get a little bit more light in my space because in my space it's kind of all coming from one direction. And so, yes. So, this wasn't our topic of conversation, but if you're going to be doing these kinds of things, we really do
Yeah.
need to work on the lighting. And boy, you're setting the bar right up there. I need to keep up with the
Yeah. Well,
Joneses, so to speak.
well, that's a good one, Kathy. I like that. But at the same point in time, too, I mean, if you're going to grow some scrubble, make sure that it's well kept because better lighting shows just how bad the razor job was in the morning. So I have to remember that. But I'll tell you what, Kathy. Part of the reason why the lighting segue goes into I have driven in the last few days now, and I have not seen any really bad examples. Now, I'm not going to claim that our advice and our show have reached people and maybe perhaps changed their attitudes on being safe by wearing bright colors and wearing bright blinky lights around on their bicycle or on their backpacks or something. But it's been a pleasure to drive around on my way to work or on my way home, because both times right now it's dark out, and able to see some people, which was really nice. I had a
It's
jogger
really
this morning, just
fantastic.
yeah, a nice little bright, it looked like the same kind of blinking light on the front and the back of the jogger, and he came up and it was really, I was able to see and track him and keep an eye on him as I'm driving by to make sure that I didn't splash him with a puddle or anything. So it's
Because
good.
we've had a little bit of
Yeah,
that rain stuff going on around here, which makes it,
yeah,
wet and uncomfortable if you don't see that person on the side of the road and you're unable to avoid those puddles because you didn't get enough
absolutely.
notice ahead of time. So yeah, we want to make sure
Yep.
that, yeah, it's a good
Yes.
thing. It's a good
And
thing. I'm
he,
glad to hear people are being
yes,
seen.
and he was dressed appropriately too. I was able to see him well enough once I got to him and realized that he was wearing a real good, weatherproof looking attire. It looked like, I mean, he was jogging just as good as he could possibly jog, but it looked like he was staying dry and healthy. That's really important for those of us who are still out there who still enjoy to get out and enjoy nature, or even commute on
Hmm.
bicycle or go out and jog, even during these winter months. It's important, staying dry is actually, or as dry as you can, I should say, is really important when you're out there. And so being bright by being seen is big time, but being safe by keeping yourself healthy and not soaking wet after you're done with your jog or your bike ride is also very important too. So good job out there, everybody.
Yeah, and that
Proud
is
of you.
so important, especially during this holiday season. There's just so
Right.
much going on. We get all the extra external stresses along with our own personal internal stresses. And so breathing that fresh air, getting out there and reminding ourselves of what we
Right.
need to do to keep our stress levels low. So
Indeed.
I thought we would talk today about how to keep those stress levels a little bit lower by potentially making our holiday travel plans a little bit differently than we have in the past. So,
Right.
things are opening up again a little bit, and at the same time everybody is still experiencing a lot of shortages for employees. And so, you know, airports are getting more crowded, flights are getting fuller, and one of the things that many airports around the country are recommending that you do to reduce the stress on you on your arrival at the
Right.
airport is not to drive your car, because those parking lots are full and they don't want you to get there, at your allotted time that you've calculated in and find out at that moment the parking lots are full and
Mm.
there's no room for you to put your car. They don't want anybody to have to go through that stress. And we especially don't want you to go through that stress because, frankly, there's other ways to get there that you can do your traveling without having to deal with that kind of stress. So we're going to talk about how to ride the bus to get to, in our case, Portland Airport. And you can do that from Columbia, Clatsop, or Tillamook counties using the bus. And in each place, there's at least one option to get to a connection to Portland Airport.
Absolutely, Kathy. And I'm so happy that we get to talk about this today because, when I travel train individuals here to ride our bus, to be honest, the majority of them are for, within their local area, so within Clatsop County here. But every once in a while, there is someone who wants to get up to Portland or Beaverton or what have you, and they need to take one of our buses or the Northwest Point bus that we're going to talk about here in a little bit to be able to get out of town and to get to those regional or otherwise known as out of town locations. And getting to the airport can be done. We have to recognize that not only can it be done, but it's really not as difficult or as intimidating as we will first think, especially once we put a little bit of effort into planning, doing a trip plan, going through some of the details that will help keep that stress low. Once we kind of start thinking about these things, and we're going to show you some of them right now, once you start thinking about it and planning for it, the intimidation goes down a little bit. There's always a little bit of, you get that little travel queasiness right before you go somewhere. But
yeah, that moment where you feel like,
yeah,
this is impossible and I can't do this and forget it.
Yeah, it's in the same family as did I just leave the door locked or did I leave the fireplace? Right. I mean, in the same category, we're always going to have some of those thoughts out there. Last thing we want to do though is exasperate those. And
so we just take a deep breath and then we go through the steps that you and I are going to talk about.
Right.
And all that stress will just melt away.
Just melt away. It'd be just whoosha, it's just all gone. Not have to worry about a single thing. But we'll show you some things. So Kathy, I know that Portland International Airport is the main destination that we're going to be going to today. However, a lot of these things that we're going to be talking about, a lot of these tricks of the trade or really good planning options are common across anything that we do. So whether or not you're getting up and just traveling to the other side of town, or you want to get up and travel, dare I say, across the country, you can apply a lot of these methods to that and help yourself get to where you need to go with as little stress as possible. So,
or if you plan on traveling from the other side of the country to here, you can use these tips as well, and then travel around our area and not worry about a car. Never mind renting a car; those expenses aren't necessary. So
that's right. Yep. Those expenses and that stress that comes with. I'll tell you, I did have a time where my rental. I did have a rental when I first got this job nearly 5 years ago, and it wasn't on the books, and I was really stressed out. I spent 2 hours with a lot of stress that I didn't need in a faraway land, and it could have all been prevented if I would have figured out the local system a little better. So, All right. Well, Kathy, what do you think I go ahead and share my screen and we can kind of get going on this little path here? What do you think?
Let's do it with the visuals. Bring the visuals.
That's right. Okay, everybody, I am going to share my desktop now, and you should see something. Preferably what you should see is the internet.
The interwebs. Look at that, Mr. Google right there.
Yep. And one of the first things that we want to do when we get on the interweb here is we want to obviously go to our favorite mapping program. So in our case, where we live in Astoria, Oregon, or Clatsop County, we have a website called the Northwest Oregon Transit.org. Okay. And if you just type that in there as NW-OregonTransit.org, you'll be taken to what is called our landing page. Actually, I like using that term, Kathy. That description for what this is, it's perfect. I love it. It's a landing page.
Because you're not going to stay right there. You're going to keep going.
That's right. Yes. So here we are. And I'm just going to quickly take us. Well, first of all, this is our page here. You can go to Ride the Wave, which is Tillamook County Transportation District. You have Columbia County Rider, Lincoln County Transit, Benton Area Transit, and of course, Sunset Empire Transportation District. And we're gonna stand on ours for now. And I'm gonna take you right over here. If you can see my little mouse, I'm gonna take over here and I'm gonna click the Northwest Connector icon. And where does it take us to, Kathy? To our trip planner. And
good place to start is for planning a trip is a trip planner. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And and a lot of times I do this just for the fun of it. I really do. When I'm over at home, if I'm planning a trip, I think one of the exciting things to go in on a trip is actually planning it and going through and finding all the details.
And those of you out there listening that aren't transit nerds like we are, it can still be fun to try it. Just plop in where you are and pick some place to go to and see what happens.
Absolutely. So I'm going to show you a couple of options. We're going to focus just for a few minutes on this particular one here. But the first thing that you want to make sure that you do, obviously, we're going to know the name of the place that we're going to, which is Portland International Airport. I'm going to have a starting location in here of our Astoria Transit Center. I want to keep it simple and make sure that it works well and so people can see. But what you'll want to do though, is you'll want to make sure that you write down the actual addresses of the facilities that you're going, and start a piece of paper, either in a notebook or just a piece of paper that you cut out of that notebook. And Kathy, we talked about earlier, right? Why is it important, that we also write stuff down as we go?
Well, we all like to think we're all hip and with it and using our mobile devices wherever we go and whatever we're doing. But when it comes down to it, there's a sense of security when you just have a piece of paper that you can write stuff down, that you don't have to worry about, is your battery going to run out or any of those things. And I know there's a bunch of millennials out there that are just rolling their eyes right now. But when it comes down to it, especially if you're traveling, there is a sense of security in having that little piece of paper, at least with some vital information in it. And whether that's your boarding pass number written down or your ending and starting destination addresses. You don't have to have the whole thing printed out, but there's some vital pieces.
Sure.
And I hope I've given you enough time to type all that stuff in there so we aren't all focusing on watching you type.
Thank you, Kathy. And
you're welcome. I'm here to back you up.
that have that paper, have that backup is really important. So as you see here, I went ahead and just typed in Astoria, Oregon and Portland International Airport. And in some cases, you see they even give you the address of the facility that you're going to, which is good. And in this case, there's just some basic options. It's not a big deal. You don't have to really, it's not like there's 15 different buttons you've got to push or boxes you got to check here. It's pretty simple. You just want to make sure that you either choose you depart after or arrive by. This search criteria will take that into account. In this case, we're going to depart after a certain time. You arrive by is really nice to work with, but sometimes it can get kind of complicated. So I like to plan myself, quite a bit of time. I'm always arriving at the airport, right, Kathy, earlier than what you got.
Sure. Well,
right?
And I would say in my mind, people are different. You prefer the depart after for this kind of thing. And that is how I usually would prefer to travel. But if I'm going to the airport and I know I've got a 2-hour window before my flight arrives and I'm supposed to be there 2 hours before the flight departs, which really, I know it dropped down to an hour there for a while, folks, but it's back up to 2 hours because those airports are packed. Give yourself that sense of security and plan to be there at least 2 hours before your flight is leaving, because otherwise, all this stress we're dissolving for you is going to be loaded right back on again, and we don't want that.
Absolutely, we don't want that. So I went ahead and changed the bubble to arrive by, because Kathy makes a great point. We want to make sure that we get there with plenty of time. So the 1:25 is not going to be the time that your flight leaves. Do not do that, people. Make sure that you plug in. If 1:25 is the time that you're going to arrive at the airport, keep in mind that should probably be a couple hours before the actual departure time, like Kathy was saying. So you want to give yourself time to get off the bus, get your bag, walk. I'm telling you, with all the
See this
additions that,
picture behind me of all these people?
yeah,
It's going to be even more crowded. Make sure you give
P-
yourself time.
and not only that, it's just I don't know these airport designers. I swear they probably think we're all a bunch of gazelles or something, and are making these airports really long.
No
I've
doubt.
been, yeah. So let's go ahead and get some directions. You could include trips that require reservations. We're not going to do that in this case. And actually, right now, because options in your particular area, that might not even help you out in any way, shape, or form. If you were in Portland doing this, or if you were in an area that had more options outside of maybe just the bus or a taxi service, that might be a good thing to go ahead and check. Okay. So anyhow, we're going to go ahead and get directions. And as you can tell, what that does is gives us point A to point B down there, right? And it gives us a couple of options over here on the left-hand side. As you can tell, it has taken our information and has given us potential routes to go there at that specific time. So in this case, I don't think, Kathy, remember we ran into this one day where we looked and we saw that it was a 16-hour trip to get to Portland. We don't want to do that. I don't want you to take a 16-hour trip just to get somewhere to where you may end up having to be on a 16-hour flight. That would not work.
And sometimes that's why it matters that you give it a try a couple different ways and
Absolutely.
you figure out so that you can see, what your different options are. And so this from Astoria, 3 hours and 38 minutes to get to the airport is not bad at all. So
no, it's not. And the cool thing here is as you can tell here, it's giving you your entire travel itinerary. I'm sitting here pointing at the screen. You can't see the screen, but because that's what I do with my trainees is when we're looking at a screen. However, if you can see my mouse, it just starts up there. You have to make sure we're ready to go at 7:17, and that gets us to the transit center where we're going to board the Columbia connector or the lower Columbia connector. And as you can tell, it's operated and serviced by Sunset Empire Transportation District. And it does that throughout the rest of this itinerary, okay? And at every single instance, if you needed to know more information about that particular location or that particular company, it's really cool. Let's just imagine that we're on the yellow line, the MAX line in Portland. You know what's really cool? All you got to do is click on TriMet, and that takes us right to TriMet's main page on their own transit tracker, which we're not going to play around with at this point.
No, but the important thing to know is that you can buy your ticket ahead of time, right?
Yes, because now that you've entered into Portland, if you're going to get on the bus and on the MAX, when you get onto either one of those modes of transportation, the bus and the train themselves do not actually take cash any longer. So you have to have a pass to get on. And it's important to understand that before you get there. For some of us, we can purchase that fare online and use our smartphone as a way to get on there. And as a matter of fact, I want to show you, Kathy, how some of that could work, okay? So we're going to go out here. This is their cost, okay, to ride their system. And over here, it takes you to some really cool ways to understand and to learn how to use it. In fact, here we go right here. So if you go right here, riding with the hop, I do apologize, you're not going to be able to hear it right now, but there's no need, it's just music. But it shows you how to do that with your plastic hop card. Isn't that pretty cool?
That's very cool.
Yeah. Or how about with your phone, Kathy? I know that the millennials would be happy with this, right?
There you go. You don't have to keep track of another piece of plastic.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and watch this for a little bit. Look how cool that is.
Yeah, just like we use the transit pass there, they're using the hop pass in Portland. And so you can be prepared and have your fare loaded onto your phone if you have that available and ready to go.
And here is what I actually failed at on my first attempt when I first got this job, going to Portland and learning how to get on their system. And I forgot that I had to go and purchase something. I had cash in hand and I tried to get on, I believe it was the MAX at the time. They're like, no, you have to wait for the next one and go to this kiosk. And that's what this is happening. This is what we're we're showing here in this video. So this is when you're in
Whoopsie.
Portland. Yep, it was a big whoopsie for me, but it's okay though, because it's part of the job.
Yep.
You see, so he's loading debit card or you have coins. The one that I use, you could take cash. And I want to point out one thing too here for people who are with limited vision. If you
Yep.
notice, you got a little bit of braille there. How's that? That's pretty neat,
pretty
right?
cool. Pretty cool.
So then it spits out
while
that
you were
paper
talking, I just got, whoops, where'd it go? It was there, right there. Look at that, how quick that was. I just got the hot pass on my phone.
Perfect.
It's
So
that
Kathy,
easy.
you are ready. So that when I first got the job, I tried to go when I was in Seattle, when I was in Portland, I was intentionally getting lost on their systems so that I could just kind of learn how to solve problems. It was a full day, it was fun to do, because there was no stress, right? So that's how I learned, how to get this stuff taken care of. And then ultimately, then what I did is I purchased some on my phone, and I got my own little paper hot pass. You got your phone there, so that's a really cool way of doing it. So just know that when you get up to Portland, oh, I didn't even know this is kind of new too, Kathy. What they do, you can actually use a contactless credit card. I don't know, for those of you who might have Apple cards and stuff, you can do this. You can just walk right up to it, and you don't even need the hot pass. You just use your card. So
look at that.
So they have made it pretty easy. So once you get to Portland as part of your trip plan, it's important for you to know how you need to pay for the fare in Portland or any other transportation district
Well, I
you go
mean,
to.
so that's a good point, Jason, because we just talked about Sunset Empire Transportation District and how and where they go to. You can also, if you're in Columbia County, you can get on Sunset Empire Transportation's bus. When Jason pulled up that trip plan, if you were in Columbia County, you would actually be connecting with that same bus to get into Portland. But if you're further south, say you're in Seaside, then you have all different options. So then you have the option of going north with the Lower Columbia Connector route, just like what Jason pulled up, and going through Astoria, or you can also then take the Northwest Point bus, which goes right up Route 26. And then, with a little bit of trip planning, you see that instead of it, that bus goes all the way into Union Station, just like the Lower Columbia Connector. But if you're going to the airport, then you actually will want to get off before you get to the Union Station. You want to get off at Sunset Transit Center, which sounds like the same thing as Astoria, but this one is in Beaverton, and you're just going to get off there and you directly connect with the Max Red Line, and it takes you then directly to Portland. Now, the difference between the Northwest Point and Sunset Empire Transportation District's bus or Tillamook Transportation District's bus is that they don't sell fares. The bus driver doesn't sell tickets. So you cannot pay for your fare on the bus. You have to get it ahead of time. So that takes a little bit of planning. So you can pay for it either on the Amtrak website or the Greyhound website or their apps. Each one of them have an app as well, and you can buy your tickets there, or you can buy them through the Sunset Empire Transportation District transit office, either in Astoria or in Seaside. And I believe you can actually buy it in Tillamook too, but I don't know why you would want to, because if you're in Tillamook, you're going to ride the Tillamook County Transportation District's bus, which is called the Coastliner, and you're going to ride that from Tillamook in to the Sunset Transit Center and get on the Max bus. Same thing. So both of those bus lines go directly to the Sunset Transit Center in Beaverton, and then you can connect via the Max Red Line. Easy peasy. You just have to make sure that you're leaving yourself enough time to get on and off buses into the airport. And that's where the trip planner comes in handy, because you don't have to guess.
Absolutely. Well, Kathy, thank you very much for that information.
Thanks for showing the visuals while I was doing that too, because that was cool.
Great segue. Yeah, no problem on that. I already queued up the same trip. As you see, we have the same trip plan as we do over here. But some people might be more familiar or more comfortable. And again, we are trying to take stress away, right? So I'm not going
Mhm.
to just show you the only one, type of trip planner. I'm going to also show you another popular trip planning software, which is Google Maps, for those of you who like to use that service as well. And in this case, we have the same thing. Okay, so uh, we really enjoy being able to also, one thing I do like to be able to do, this one thing that's kind of exciting. As you can tell, what's happening here is those maps and the lines that you see on the maps. You see we have yellow, orange, in this case, orange, that's our Lower Columbia Rider, that's connecting to Rainier. And then we're gonna get through there and get all the way down here. You can see we'll zoom in, right?
Mhm.
We get to Union Station right there. And then we get on the Max Green Line once we get there. Okay, and so then you'd have to make sure by that time you'd have either had your fare purchased on your phone or at this Union Station that you've gone on and you have purchased your fare through one of their kiosks before you board the train. Remember, before you board, make sure you are ready to go with your fare. And maybe this is another great segue too. This time of year, and quite frankly, most of the year, it's wet out, right? It's raining, so you'll want to make sure. In this case, we have to walk about 3 minutes to get from the place where our bus drops us off, the Lower Columbia Connector bus, and the actual location where we pick up the Max Green Line. So you'll want to
Mhm.
make sure that you're dressed appropriately for this. And Kathy, I don't know what you like to dress in as to keep yourself dry, but I'll tell you what, I definitely do not like boarding public transportation when I'm wet. I'm a little bigger guy, and when I get really soaked from rain, I tend to start not smelling very good. So, and I'm being honest there, people. It's those of you who aren't honest, come on. But anyhow, when you do get on board public transit, the last thing you want to be is completely soaked. So I don't know what you wear, Kathy, or I don't know what your method is to keep yourself dry, but I mean, it's important.
Yes. Yep. And
So,
so I would just say, so we've covered how to get to Portland International Airport from Astoria and from Seaside. And I would say that if you're going from Cannon Beach, kind of Seaside route would
mhm,
apply as well, taking the point bus up 26 instead
yep,
of the Astoria route, because that would cut quite a bit of time off of your schedule. If you're in Tillamook, you would take the Tillamook Coastliner, which then also does basically the same thing as the Lower Columbia Connector. It will take you from Tillamook County on their buses with their bus passes, which is $15 one way and $20 round trip. And you can take the bus from Tillamook, in downtown Tillamook, to Sunset Transit Center and get
yep.
off and take the elevator if you need to, or the steps if you want the exercise, because you're going to be sitting on an airplane for hours, and get directly on that Max Red Line and take it right out to the airport. So, that's easy that way. And if you prefer, or if you're taking the train and not the plane to someplace, then you take the Tillamook County bus all the way into Union Station, same way as
Right.
the Lower Columbia Connector, and it goes right to Union Station, and you can get right on the train from there. If you got confused and you went all the way to Union Station on the Tillamook County bus, you can still get to the airport. You just
Right.
use that Max Green Line, you connect to the Red Line, and you get all the way out to the airport. And
Perfect.
you've done it all without a car.
You've done it all without a car. And the cool thing is, Kathy, is what we've been able to do here now is hopefully give somebody just a taste, a little peek,
Mhm.
right, at
Mhm.
how they can do that, how they can work to not only cut the car out of the trip, which is a considerable cost for a variety
Mhm.
of reasons, not to
Mhm.
mention insurance and gas and all that kind of stuff, but um,
Long-term parking, short-term parking,
long-term
those are
parking, yeah,
expensive. And if you're going to be gone for 10
absolutely,
days and it's $15 to park the car in economy, and
yep.
that's full, that's already a lot of money. And then
Yeah,
if
not to
that's
mention theft.
full, then the price only goes up from there. So,
Right. Yeah. So see, we've helped people take a little bit of stress off. But Kathy, in the very end, and one of the last things I want to bring up is you had already kind of briefly touched a little bit. Don't panic. Things don't always work out exactly as you plan. I know we've just gone through how to develop a trip plan and to follow it. But if you have anything that goes wrong in your trip, don't panic. Have a plan B. So as part of your planning process, always take the time. You had mentioned earlier, Kathy, make sure you have everything down on paper. Okay, because there's pieces of information that you'll want to have. What if the network goes down? What if your phone batteries died because you are watching too many videos on the way here? I mean, whatever happens, you want to make sure that you have backup. And I thank you very much for talking about that earlier. But the most important thing really is to not panic, to remember you have a backup plan.
right. And leave yourself time
Yes,
too.
leave yourself
Time is
time. Yes.
important too.
Right.
Don't have
And
yourself arriving on the button at the time, like 15 minutes before the flight departs, because you've already missed your flight at that point.
yeah, see, I take the mentality, and I still need to work on this because I always have an overly optimistic view of my travel itinerary. and I was just recently on a trip where I was always thinking, I had to stop myself from thinking, oh, hey, we can get there right at this time. We don't need a whole lot of buffer time. Who wants to sit around, and wait rather than let's just get there and go. But I had to stop myself and realize, no, you need to build in that extra time. And sure enough, there were a couple of times where we needed that extra bit to get from one location to the next. Airports aren't small, people. So
nope.
give yourself
it's
extra
like
time.
they're a city amongst themselves in some places. So
exactly.
yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
So Kathy, I think unless you've got any questions, boy, I think people now know that indeed, not only can they go shopping, not only can they go see friends and family, not only can they maybe get to a second job that someone may have gotten for the holidays and so forth, not only can they do those things with the transit system, but they can also get out of town and either go to Portland International Airport and go visit somebody, or they can come from somewhere else and come visit the coast. So I think we've set that up for them. And if they have any questions, obviously they can call us or whatever. But I really want to encourage people to get online and to go to our website and play around with a trip planner. Even if you're not going on a trip, just do it to start getting yourself used to those things so that when the time comes where you do want to plan a trip, you're ready to go.
Right. Absolutely. So Jason, I don't know if you want to take down the screen share so we can do our thanks and see y'all hopefully next week, and everybody has a great, safe, if you're going someplace and planning a trip, don't hesitate to call out and reach out, drop us a message, and we'll help you figure it out. If this wasn't enough of a tutorial, we're happy to help with some more tutorials and happy to help you figure it out, because really those airports and parking lots are full. So do what you can to start your vacation off, not with a bang, just smooth sailing.
I like that. Smooth sailing. Well, I'm really happy to be able to talk to you this week, Kathy. And it does, this time closes really fast, doesn't it? And here we are again.
Really fast. Yep. At the end of our show again.
Yeah.
And we're getting ever so much closer to the holidays. And we just want everybody to have a really great holiday season. Actually, some of them have already started. So, all of those holidays that people are celebrating, we want everybody to have great family time with as little stress as possible. So, they can come back and be with us and enjoy us in our time when we, whenever we're on.
Right on.
So, all right. Well, everybody have a great weekend. Jason, it's been fabulous talking with you again. I don't know if you have any closing words for our show today.
No, just say, be safe out there, cyclists. Be safe out there, joggers. Make sure you're highly visible so I can see you at the very least. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Kathy, for another wonderful transportation